A pleasant day. My name is Suzette Bishop Love Angeles, and now we're gonna talk about Industrial Revolution. The Industrial Revolution was a transition from small cottage industries in which goods were primarily made by hand to new mass-produced goods in factories using steam and water power. The Industrial Revolution began in Great Britain around 1760, and many of the technological inventions were of British origin. Textiles were the dominant industry of the Industrial Revolution in terms of employment, value of output, and capital invested. The textile industry was also the first to use modern production methods. The Industrial Revolution marked a major turning point in history, and almost every aspect of daily life was influenced in some way. There are several important reasons why it began in Great Britain. And for industrial reasons, machines were invented which replaced human labor. New energy sources were developed to power the new machinery like water, steam, electricity, oil, gas, and kerosene. It increased use of metals and minerals like aluminum, coal, copper, iron, and many more. First, a plentiful iron and coal. Second, a navigable river system. Third, colonies that supplied raw materials and bought finished goods. And lastly, a government that encouraged improvements in transportation and used its navy to protect British trade. It also improved communication like telegraph, telephone, and radio. For intellectual under science revolution, it encouraged learning and search for better and newer ways of doing things. It also developed to replace the domestic system of productions in factories. It fastened the method of production. First, workers concentrated in a set location. Production anticipated demand, for example. Under the domestic system, a woman might select fabric and have a business person give it a home-based worker to make it into a dress. Under the factory system, the factory owner bought large lots of popular fabrics and hardworks create multiple dresses in common sizes, anticipating the woman would buy them.
An agricultural revolution. England had been an agricultural nation for centuries. Crop rotation techniques had improved over that period, okay, allowing soil to remain more fertile and growing outputs increase. Farmers also experiment with livestock breeding by allowing only their largest animals to breed. This result in larger and healthier cattle and also lamb. In the 1700s, wealthy landowners bought up smaller farms and enclosed their larger lands with fences. This enclosure movement led to more productive farming and greater crop yields. Okay, but also displaced many small farmers. Often, these men and women moved to cities to work in the new factories. Natural resources. These describe the inputs used in the production of goods or services in order to make an economic profit. With a booming population from higher food production and the enclosure movement pushing people to cities. England's industries had more than enough workers. Great Britain's well-developed banking system allowed for loans to invest in industries to help them succeed. Water power and coal to fuel new machines, iron ore to construct new machines, tools, and buildings. Okay, rivers for inland transportations, harbors from which merchant ships set sail.
A stable government and economy. Finally, the Industrial Revolution flourished in Great Britain for political reasons. While England was often at war, all of these conflicts took place outside of the country. As a result, life in the country was relatively peaceful. The last major political upheaval was the Glorious Revolution in 1688, and a period of peace and stability followed when other nations were undergoing revolutions or political changes. Additionally, the political system of England encouraged trade and entrepreneurship. A straightforward legal system allowed the formation of joint stock companies, enforced property rights, and respected patents for inventions. Finally, the Great Reform Act was passed by the Parliament in 1832. This granted seats in Parliament to large cities that had sprung up during the Industrial Revolution, and removed seats from smaller areas that had been dominated by a wealthy patriot. The act also increased the electorate from about 400,000 to 650,000, making about 1 in 5 adult males eligible to vote.
Impact of the Industrial Revolution. Industrial Revolution also led to an unprecedented rise in the rate of population growth. Britain population grew to 80 between percent of the between of the 1550 and 1820, while the rest of the Western Europe grew 50 to 80%. Additionally, Great Britain became the world's leading commercial nation, controlling a global trading empire with colonies in Northern America and the Caribbean, with a political influence on the Indian continent.
Why the Industrial Revolution started in England. Number one, capital for investing the means of production. Number two, colonies and markets for manufactured goods. Number three, raw materials for production. Number four, workers. Number five, merchant marine. And number six, or the last, is geography. Let's go further. England's resources capital. 1. Merchants had the capital to invest in the factory system. Okay? Money to buy buildings, machinery, and raw materials. So 2. Its colonies gives England access to enormous markets and vast amounts of new materials. And number 3. Possess the necessary raw materials to create means of production like coal and iron. The last factor that started the Industrial Revolution in England. England's resources, geography. Number 1. England is the political center of Great Britain, an island. Number 2. Great Britain did not suffer fighting on its land during the wars of 18th century. Island has harbors and ports. Number 4. Damp climate benefit the textile industry. Trade did not dry out. And number 5. Government is stable. And number 6. No internal trade barriers. Inventions for industrialization. Number 1. Weavers work faster flying shuttles and spinning jennies. Number 2. Water frame uses H2O to drive spinning wheels. Number 3. Power loom spinning mules speed up the production. And lastly, move machinery to factories. Necessity is the mother of invention. So here's what invention go through times in England. Number 1, from spinning machine, then need to speed up the weaving. Okay, to power loom created. Then power loom to increase the demand for raw cotton. Next, Invention of the cotton gin. Then, from cotton gin to demands for stronger iron. Then, improvements in iron smelting and the development of steel, Bessemer process. Okay, next, as more steam-powered machines were built, factories needed more coal to create this steam. Two, mining methods. Okay, to improve or to meet the demand for more coal. So the process of inventing never ends. One invention inevitably leads to improvements upon it, and so to more inventions. Okay, the birth and the growth of textile industry. 1. John Kay, Flying Shuttle, 1733, hand-operated machine which increased the speed of weaving. Next, James Hargreaves, The Spinning Jenny, 1765, home-based machine that spun the thread of 8 times faster than when spun by hand. Next, Richard Arkwright, water frame in 1769. Water-powered spinning machine, okay, that was too large for use in a home, led to creation of factories. Okay, next, Samuel Crompton, spinning mule, okay, 1779, combined the spinning jenny and the water frame into a single device. Okay, it increased the production of fine thread. Next, Edward Cartwright, the power loom, 1785, water-powered device that automatically and quickly wove thread into cloth. Next, L. Whitney, the cotton gin, 1793, device separated raw cotton from the cotton seeds, increasing the cotton supply while lowering the cost of raw cotton. Next, Elias Howe, sewing machine in 1846. Speed of sewing greatly increased. Okay, these machines were so large. They were placed in large buildings called factories. Technology in textile. The Industrial Revolution that began in Britain was spurred by a revolution in technology. This is the most obvious in the textile industry, where inventions in the late 70s transformed the manufacture of the cloth. These developments, in turn, had an impact on the rest of the world. Okay? For example, England's cotton came from the plantations in the American South, where cotton production skyrocketed from 790 to 1810 in response to the demand from the textile mills of England. John Kay's shuttle speedily carried threads of yarn back and forth when weaver pulled a handle. The flying shuttle is greatly increased the productivity of weavers. Next, James Hargreaves, spinning jenny, dramatically increased the output of spinners. It helped them to keep the pace with the weaver. Development of steam engines. Early water power involved mills built over fast-moving streams and rivers. Okay, the problem with steam engines, rivers for remove, not enough power, and prone to drying. But James Watt Scotland made a solution for this. In 1769, he improved the new common steam engine to power. More info about steam engines. Number 1. By 1800s, steam engines were replacing water wheels as the source of power for factories. Next, factories relocated near the raw materials, workers, and ports. Number 3. Cities grew around the factories, built near the central England's coal and iron mines in Manchester, Liverpool.
Transportation. Before the Industrial Revolution, canal barges pulled by mules, Ships powered by sails, horse-drawn wagons, cart and carriage. After the Industrial Revolution, there's the train, steamships, trolley, and automobile. And also, transportation increased the production, search for more markets and raw materials, and make the transportation better and faster. The people involved in transportation revolution. First is Gottlieb Daimler, gasoline engine in 1885, led to the invention of the automobiles. Second, Rudolf Diesel, the diesel engine in 1892, and makes the cheaper fuel. Third, it's Orville and Wilbur Wright. Is an airplane in 1903 and create the airport transport. Fourth, Robert Falcon, a steamboat in 1807, speed water transportation. Thomas Delfold and John McAdam, by Macadam's Road in 1810 to 1830, improves roads. And sixth is this George Stephenson, locomotive in 1825, fast land transport of people and goods. Steamboat. Robert Falcon invented the steamboat in 1807. The Claremont operated the first and regular steamboat route, running between Albany and New York City. 1810, the Savannah used a steam engine as auxiliary power for the first time when it sailed across the Atlantic Ocean. In 1836, John Ericsson invented a screw propeller to replace the paddle wheels. In 1838, the Great Western, the first ship to sail across the Atlantic on steam power, alone completing the trip in 15 days. Macadam roads. Strong, hard roads invented by Thomas Telford and Jack McAdams. Improvements over the dirt and the gravel roads. Macadam's road has a smooth, hard surface that support the heavy loads without requiring a thick road bed. Modern roads are Macadam's road, with the tar added to the limit and creation of the dust. Railroads. In 1830, Stephenson rocket train traveled the 14 miles between Liverpool and Manchester in 1.5 hours. In 1830 to 1870, railroad track went from 49 miles to over 15,000 miles. Stair rails replaced the iron rails. 1869, Westinghouse air brakes made for the travel safety. Great train traveling comfort, heavier train cars improves and rubbered and sleeping cars. The people involved in communication revolution. First is Lee D. Forrest. It's about radio tube in 1907. Radio broadcasts could be sent around the world. Second, Cyrus Field is about Atlantic cable in 1866. He said United States and Europe connected by cable. Third, Guglielmo Marconi, wireless telegraph, and early from the radio in 1895. No wires needed for sending the messages. Fourth, Samuel Morse is about telegraph in 1844. He said rapid communication across the continent. Fifth, Vladimir Zworykin, television 1925. He said that simulation audio and visual broadcast. Last, Alexander Graham Bell, the telephone 1876. He said human speech heard across continents. Industrialization Section 2. European cities go through the period of urbanization because of the factory system. This caused by living conditions to be terrible. Sickness was widespread, the cholera. Average workers spend 14 hours and 16 days. Dangerous industries called class tension. New money factory owner, shipper, and merchant became middle class. Upper is the doctors and lawyers, lower is the factory overseer. Working class machine replaced them. Luddites destroy machine in factories and Reuters. Industrialization spread. Section 3. Samuels later built a spinning machine from memory in US. Francis Lowell mechanized every stitch of manufactured cloth in US. Women flocked to million jobs. US went through the industrial in late 1800s. Resource invention, swelling population were contributors. Railroads play a major role. Corporation. Entrepreneurs sold shares of stock or right of the ownership. This built business became corporation, gives the ability to raise large amount of capital. Standard Oil and Carnegie Steel. European industries. William Cockerell made his way to Belgium. His son built a large industry there. Germany had a packet of industry, imported British engineer and built railway. Regions in Europe began to industrialize. Example, the northern Italy textile. Social structure and geography helped it elsewhere. Impact. Industrialized country exploited overseas markets for resources. Imperialism was born, gave Europe a great power, developed a middle class, and creates movement for social reform.
Philosophers, Section 4. Adam Smith believed in the term laissez-faire, policy of letting owner of industry and business set working conditions without interference, wrote about in The Wealth of Nations, capitalism economic system in which the factor of production are privately owned and money is invested in business ventures to make a profit. Thomas Robert Malthus, an essay on the principle of population epidemic and war are necessary. David Ricardo, principle of political economy and taxation, a permanent underclass. Jeremy Bentham, utilitarianism people should judge things based on their usefulness. Individuals should be free to pursue interests without interference of the state. Questions unregulated capitalism. Push for reforms. Utopian leaders Robert Owen improved working conditions attempted to create a utopia in Indiana. French reformers Charles Fourier and Saint-Simon and socialism factors of production are owned by the public and operate for the welfare of all. Karl Marx and Friedrich Engels. The Communist Manifesto. Middle class haves or bourgeoisie, have-nots, workers or proletariats, predicted that the workers would overthrow owners. Marx believed factories would drive small businesses out, leaving a number of manufacturers to control all wealth. Proletariat would revolt and a classless society would be developed. Called communist, and all good would be shared equally. And for reforms, workers joined together to form unions, engaged in bargaining with employers if refused workers would strike. Britain Combination Acts outlawed union but were repealed in 1824. In 1886, U.S. American Federation of Labor led successful strikes. Factory Act of 1833, illegal to hire children under 9, could not work more than 8 hours a day. 1842, Mines Act prevented women and children from working underground, and 1847 limited working day to 10 hours. And for reform movement, William Wilberforce influence in getting the slave to end in Britain in 1833, US 1865, Puerto Rico 1873, and Brazil 1888. Women activists met at the International Council for a Woman in 1888. Alexis de Tocqueville sued for reform the conditions in prison. Also main purpose in Right and Democracy in America was to analyze the functioning of political society and the various forms of political associations. Although he also had some reflections in civil society as well as the relations between political and civil society. And Horace Mann advocated for free public education.